back and you actually look at the numbers, you find out that the logging concerns have been automating at a very rapid rate, as fast as they can possibly go, and that's what's kicking all the loggers out of work. And it's not because they're using any logs. Last year they cut more logs than they've ever cut before. How will technocracy get all of the people in power and people with power to agree to give up they're familiar with dollars power and control over others in order to try something new and different like Technocracy's plan? How do you see the transition occurring? Good question. Well, when you're talking about power, you're talking about people, what good is having power over a madhouse? This is about what these guys have got. How many
I have an answer to that.
Oh, there are some nuts around, yes.
No, you can create, you can extract money. I mean, that's the reason. Why else would the politicians?
Oh, absolutely. As long as they can keep getting away with it. But when the system literally threatens to crumble under their feet, about the only way you can really make money left in this system is to run drugs. Now, what's going to happen when those curves actually follow out the way I said, when that employment curve, as it continues to drop down and down and down, and there's more and more unemployment and more people unhappy, how long do you think those people are going to be able to sit there? Now, an interesting thing, if you want to go back and take a look, a 3 years ago, I think it was, Fortune magazine every year runs an interview with the top 100 wealthiest people in the country. And it's interesting to go down and read some of those interviews with some of these people. They're not very dumb people, most of them. A lot of them are pretty smart. A lot of them can see, sort of dimly, some of this stuff coming down the road. The fascinating thing to me with some of them, certainly not all of them, with some of them is that rather than being afraid of it, they're fascinated with it. They think that this is really going to be an interesting time to be watching. But a lot of them can see what's coming. They don't know what the heck it is. They don't know what to do about it. But they're interested too. See, there's a problem here. Is not only, unfortunately, we are all in the same boat. It's true that those people are probably on the upper decks, but if the whole damn boat sinks, who cares? So these guys live here just like we do. Like the rest of us Slavs. And they may be driving Cadillacs, but they'll go down just as surely as the rest of us. If there's nothing left underneath them, no hope for them either. All right, now how do you see a transition occurring? That is a real problem. That is a problem. Because the transition can't be smooth. People never, ever change their social system for light reasons. Never. Why? That's an important human defense mechanism. If the human race had gone through its existence, switching from one thing to another, to the another, to another, we wouldn't be here at all now. The number one motto of the whole human race is, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And people have to have it demonstrated to them conclusively, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that what it is that they have now doesn't work at all and isn't going to work before they begin to move. It's a human defense mechanism. So when you start talking to people about social change, usually they get scared. And when they don't get scared, when you're walking around with a sign, doom is upon us, and they're interested and they want to hear what you say, you know it's coming close. And it's interesting to me that more and more people are interested in listening to Technocracy today than I've seen in a long time. When I first joined this organization back in the 50s, if I talked about Technocracy, I was called a communist. A little bit later on, when the environmental movement came in, if you started talking about Technocracy, you were called a fascist. Depends on what's in or out at the time. This is going to be difficult to transition. And we damn well better find a way to do it. Or we're going to be in trouble. I'll tell you right now, the guidelines that Technocracy has put out are the only ones that you can really go by. You're not going to operate this thing with any kind of a socialist system. That showed everybody its true value just recently in the events in Europe, Eastern Europe. And you're not going to operate it with any kind of a fascist system either. You're not going to point guns at the thing and make it work. When you have a factory, when you got a machine that breaks down, if your car falls apart on the freeway, does pointing a gun at it help it? No. You might feel like doing that. Will it help the situation? No. And that is essentially what the fascists have in mind. We're going to make up our own set of social order, with our own set of rules that we know are right and just and true, and we're going to make sure that everybody follows them. If they don't, we're going to kick their tails. Will it work? No. Communists, socialists, people like that have the best of intentions. That we want to take care of everybody. Their concern is social equity. Now we saw how it come out, how it actually works. What it actually devolves down into, by the time you get down to the root of the thing, is it results in a giant government bureaucracy that freezes up everything. So, we got some more questions? Okay. Yeah.
My point was building a war chest in the sense that accumulating money based on the extrapolation of the excellent exposition of the curves that you suggested should give you an advantage of accumulating money, since that's the game we're playing now. You accumulate a war chest, as an example, Ross Perot, without even stumbling, he what, 28%, 20% of the electorate.
Yeah.
Just by suggesting a certain patriotism, a certain concern for the country, a certain antagonism or recognition of the problems and the fact that the establishment is incapable or unwilling to change.
Yeah.
So it would seem that there is an opportunity for presenting a different
absolutely.
Option.
Absolutely. I agree.
On the other hand, there was a lecture given in just recently, it was presented at West Point, and some theoreticians are already speaking about the coup d'etat of 2015. That was the title. So they're already anticipating, as you suggest, a fascist reaction and an authoritarian devolution of the society.
Yeah.
So that's what we're facing, right?
That is what we're facing. But the problem is, no matter what the bent of the speakers, is that this system is running into a wall. To me, it was fascinating, too, to see that somebody like Perot got so many votes. That says a lot of people are really starting to worry, with good reason. I would have loved it if Ross Perot had actually put his actual program into action. Because Ross Perot's main thrust was this enormous national debt that we're looking at. He said, boy, if we don't do something to cut that down, we're all going to go to hell. And he's right. That's what Technocracy has been saying for the last 60 years. So what does he say we should do about it? We ought to stop. We ought to shut down on government expenditures, and we ought to start paying off that debt.
You know what? It's an interesting point, because that's the crux of the problem. It may have been more intuitive than I gave him credit for. Because you only have two choices with 60% of the tax is supposed to pay interest on the debt. So that affects everyone.
Absolutely.
Right? So you only have two choices. You try working it down, which may or may not be possible. Seems unlikely.
Very unlikely.
Or you start taking political action to, what is it, Bill? Rescind? What is the correct term? To repudiate the national debt. And that may be the basis of political action. In other words, you get 60% of the taxes immediately off your back. You identify whose what interests or